Yeah, you got 10 minutes.
Inshallah, okay. Our young brother there, go ahead.
What do you do if your family tell you to cut off relationship because of a family quarrel?
MashaAllah. Our young brother's asking, what should you do if your parents say, cut off from that family member because there's a family quarrel? Subhanallah. How many times has happened? One person in the family say, we don't talk to them anymore. They don't come to our house, we don't go there. We don't go to their funeral even. We don't go to their weddings. How common is this in our cultures? Subhanallah. And this is a lovely question. Here, remember we mentioned the verse of the Quran. وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حُسْنًا. We've enjoined it to be dutiful to your parents, to obey them. But there's a condition. وَإِنْ جَاهَدَاكَ لِتُشْرِكَ بِمَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا. But if they attempt for you to associate partners, to make shirk with Allah, then do not obey them. So here the general principle is, obey the parents and everything is good and halal. You have to. But if they ask you to do something haram, forbidden, like shirk, we cannot obey them in that. And here, cutting the family ties comes under disobedience to Allah. When the Prophet ﷺ said, لا طاعة في معصية الله إنما الطاعة في المعروف. That there is no obedience if it means disobedience to Allah. That indeed, the obedience is only in which is right and proper, in the good. So if our parents ask us to do something haram, such as cutting off the family ties, then we have to not listen to them, because Allah has told us that we have to maintain the family ties. It is one of the kaba'ir, one of the major sins. So if our parents are telling us to do a major sin, in that we cannot obey them, with all respect to them. Why? Do we obey Allah or do we obey mum and dad here? Answer is clear. We obey Allah. So if the father or mother asks us to do haram, we cannot obey the parents in that. In all other things, yes, go get me this, bring my food. Yes, obey them in everything in halal and good. Obey them in that. But in anything which goes against the Quran and Sunnah, against Islam, we cannot obey them in that. So even if they ask you to cut off the tie, no. In that situation, we cannot. Go ahead, brother.
How do we deal with non-Muslim relatives?
How do we deal with non-Muslim relatives? SubhanAllah. Let's say we have somebody who's a revert Muslim, and they're married, of course, they're now Muslim. Here, as we mentioned, the verse again still applies. وَوَصَّيْنَا الْإِنسَانَ بِوَالِدَيْهِ حُسْنًا. We've enjoined you to be dutiful to your parents. Whether your parents are Muslim or non-Muslim, you obey your parents in that which is good, in halal. Even if somebody's father is a Jew, or a Christian, or a Hindu, or a Sikh, or an atheist, it doesn't mean that you don't give them their rights. They still have rights over you. As we mentioned, all the rights that we've mentioned, they still have those rights, and you still have to give them their rights. As I said, the only thing is if there is something, let's say for example, and this has been asked to many of these scholars before, if the parent wants you to go on a non-Muslim celebration, okay? As Muslims, we're not allowed to partake in the non-Muslim celebrations. Or let's say there's a gathering where alcohol is served. We are not allowed to be at the table where alcohol is, because the Prophet said in the hadith that the sin is the same on the one who carries the wine, the one who serves it, the one who drinks it, and the one who sits at the table where the wine is. It's the same sin. So for a Muslim whose parents are non-Muslim, they cannot be at that place where the alcohol is. And they have to politely decline and refuse to be on that day. However, they should try to find an alternative day where maybe there's not alcohol there. Okay? Or they make a suggestion that I would love to come, but my deen forbids me to be in a place where there's alcohol. So if there's nobody drinking there, or there's no alcohol served, I don't mind, and I will be there, and I'll meet with the family members. I'd love to meet with them. So we're not being extreme to the extent, we don't visit because they're not Muslim. No, Islam does not say that. Islam calls for keeping family ties, even to non-Muslims, and respecting and still loving them as parents. It doesn't mean you don't love your parents. They're the ones who brought you into this world. But here, all the things, making dua for them, Allah guides them, Allah rectifies the situation. This is what we should be doing. So when we deal with non-Muslims, doesn't matter whether they're Muslim or not, they still have rights on us, and we have to give them all the rights that they deserve. Allahu a'lam. In terms of also visiting our relatives, there's a few things which I thought just to make note of, and that is, if somebody's done bad to us, it hurts. Yet the most important thing is forgiveness. If you forgive, Allah will forgive you. If you hold that grudge and don't forgive, how do you expect Allah to forgive you? So here, forgive, it doesn't mean forget. A Muslim doesn't, it doesn't fall into the same trap twice, he or she. You learn and you stay away from what harms you. But we do forgive, and we try to move forward from that. Make visits. If you feel that staying there too long, make the visit a brief visit. Because sometimes what happens, the more you are with family members, and then the people start talking and backbiting and gossiping, if that happens, then a person needs to make the excuse and leave early. Okay? Again, not listening to people who are causing trouble in the family. If somebody carries a piece of news, say, oh, this person's and this, and that's and that, unless we know it's true, and even if it was, it's still sin because you're backbiting somebody. Whether it's true or not, but you're talking about them without them being present there, and they won't be happy. This is also a form of backbiting, ghiba. Okay? Which is forbidden in Islam. And not only that, even if it was true, okay, that could cause greater fitna, harm between people. By listening to what they're saying, you say, better we don't get sins, and leave the matter to Allah. May Allah guide that person, that's it. And then if they continue talking, make your excuses and say, I've got something to do, so please excuse me. So that they don't get upset. Because they'll say, oh, we don't talk about the issue, it involves you and so forth. Yes, it might involve you, but by discussing it further, you get into more sins, and it could create a bigger problem in the family. And as we said, dua. Always make dua for those people. Allah guide them, Allah make them better in their mannerisms. Never forget the issue of dua. Is there any other questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead, brother.
Just to check if I heard it correctly, I think you said like zakat to giving to relatives is better than giving to non-relatives.
That's right, yes.
Is there a difference between giving sadaqah or zakat to the relatives? Because as far as I understand, we don't give sadaqah to the relatives.
This hadith is sahih. This is from the Prophet ﷺ. So hadith is authentic. So here, it is allowed to give to relatives if they are in the category of those who fall under the needy, which are for zakah. Okay, so if they fall under that, and they have to be means tested, they look at what they're coming in and so forth. If they fall in that category, then yes, they are allowed based on the authentic hadith. Allahu a'lam. No. But in general, as I said, if they're not under the category of zakah, then no. Then zakah has to go to those who are deserving it and needy of that zakah. Allahu a'lam. No. Inshallah. Any other? I think we'll wrap up here. So, Jazakumullah khair, brothers and I think the sisters if they're listening, for attending today. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to reward the brothers here in the masjid for arranging today. Kama qala Rasulullah, man la yashkur nas la yashkur Allah. Whoever does not thank the people is not thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whatever you've heard today, which is, if any good came from it, this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anything which I made a mistake or was incorrect is from the weakness of myself and the shaitan. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept from each and every one of us. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdik ashhadu an la ilaha illa ant astaghfiruka wa atubu alayk. Wassalamu alaykum wa rahmatullah.